I get so incredibly frustrated with doctors when they don't want to hear what we're saying. And recently I told my doctor, because right now I'm in the process of switching insurances, so I don't have access to a PCP or a neurologist, which is essentially what I need for these migraines. And it just really sucks because he's like, well, what you're describing is just TMJ. Dude, I get that. I get that my jaw is tight and that a lot of the pain in my ear is being caused by TMJ, but the reason I'm grinding my teeth is because of how bad my head hurts. And that's been that way since I was a kid, because no matter how much I said it, nobody's listening. So I have this ongoing headache that I can't get rid of. And now that I have lowered the CBD and THC almost to nothing, actually I haven't had any for days, the pain is just getting worse. And eventually, if it gets too bad, I still have some CBD or some THC tablets, and I'll take it to make sure that I don't have what my mom used to think was seizures. She kept taking me in because it seemed like I was having seizures since I was like 19, I think, was when the headache stopped going away. Before it was like on and off, or like a dull ache in the back of my mind, but now it's all the time. And it really frustrates me because they would rather it get worse than try to find the cause. And this build-up pressure is just overwhelming because it makes it hard to think or talk. It makes it very difficult to do things. And when I'm on my own, so it's not like I have anybody to drive me, because I asked them for a worker 1,000,000 times and all they did was assign LCM or ECM, whatever the fuck that is, and I never got the assistance that I needed. When they gave me MTM transport, they set me up so that I would have a meltdown. And I know they set me up because I could feel it long before it happened. Even the fucking acupuncturist kept slapping my hand. Relax, relax, relax. The body can't relax when it knows that something harmful is happening to it. That's what a setup and manipulation feels like to the body. You may not recognize the pattern in your heart, but because it's been done to me so many times, I do. And here I am going to another doctor for my eye, only to feel like he's not going to believe me. Why? Because for so long, no one has believed me. But even he said, well, ocular migraines only last about 20 minutes. Obviously not, because that's fucking raindrop in my eye has been there for years, causing blur in that eye and forcing the other eye to work extra. And the static in the other eye gets so bad I can't see sometimes, so I just don't drive. And yet the only job I could find was Uber Eats. But I can't do very many deliveries because I can't see and I keep hitting my mirrors. But I'm supposed to keep putting my life at risk because no one is hearing me, even now. And it's scary, but I'm supposed to somehow be okay with you sending me to mental health services when the things that are causing me this distress are not being addressed. Just fine, I'll do all the fucking evaluations you want. I already told you guys. But that's not what you want. You want to prove something that doesn't exist because you don't want to address what has been happening for so long. And maybe I'm just one of those people that just has permanent migraines. Cool. Then give me the treatment that I've been asking for so that I at least can tolerate them better. So that it's not as debilitating as it is. But slowly but surely, every single thing that I have asked, instead of accommodating my needs, They make me jump through hoops and then they don't give me what I need. I'm choking on my food again because of how tired my tongue is because of the pain that I'm in. And I know that's not the only thing that causes the tiredness in my tongue, but right now my throat just hurts. And it's not because I'm crying like every fucking doctor when I go into the emergency room. I choke on my water too. That's a consistent thing. I have to be very careful when I eat and drink because of how often I choke on my food. I need an ear, nose, and throat specialist. I need a speech pathologist. But Kaiser like to ignore, delay, deny, and pretend like these problems, just because they're minimal, don't exist. What does that do? It causes harm. It causes respiratory infections when I inhale my water. It causes all kinds of other issues that I can't think of right now because my head is splitting. But there's nothing I can do because I don't have reliable transport for my medical appointments because Kaiser is unreliable in a million different ways. Oh, but we assign... Okay, but I can't trust your medical transport, and you didn't want to sign the papers for dial-a-ride. All you had to do was sign the motherfucking papers. That's all you had to fucking do. Sign the papers so that when I'm in this much pain, I can still get to my appointments without being in such excruciating pain. But that's not something you chose to do. I asked you for housing where I would have support. But no, you chose to remove me from the housing I was in because there was abuse. I had to go through the entire process, but even then, you didn't make the housing referral valid or send it to where it needed to go until the judge approved the restraining order. So you basically left me in the air for 2 months, almost 2 months, living as a homeless person with no intention of actually assisting or helping. That's what LCM and ECM did. And since the beginning, they had said, well, why don't you come to San Diego? So this means that everything that they did to delay was to get me into San Diego. For what? What is so different about San Diego if none of the support that I requested has been given? If instead the insurance dropped me as soon as I switched my Medi-Cal to San Diego? That's on you guys. Because even on the phone, the Medi-Cal person who did the transfer never said that Kaiser would disenroll. And then when we called back, they're like, oh, well, you have to re-enroll when you get to San Diego. Okay, but that is not what your Medi-Cal people said. Y'all need to inform yourself. And this is the same problem I had with Medi-Cal at the beginning of the year. Every single person that you speak to is going to give you different information, and it's all wrong. It's all wrong. None of them know what they're fucking doing when you talk to them. You ask them all the right questions. They give you the answers, but none of them give you the right answers. On the contrary, they put you into more disarray, into more issues, into more struggle. And essentially, the social worker I asked to manage my case has still not been assigned. I still don't have somebody who is assisting me with these things. If I get into a car accident, I will be liable for that. Not these motherfuckers that have been ignoring me. If I lose my ability to defend myself, I will be at the mercy of these people because my family never learned what it takes to take care of me or what actually works and what doesn't work. So I will have to go through all the things that didn't work again while my body deteriorates. I'm still losing weight despite eating well. But somehow I have a fucked up eating disorder and I don't know how to eat. Even the dietitian said that I'm doing well with what I eat. So what do I do if Kaiser never sent me the extra meals, even after I sent the email? I guess they were waiting for me to have the next appointment. Well, there won't be a next appointment with the dietitian. I will just continue to go through bouts of malnutrition until I can't think for myself. And this is what I keep telling them. The longer you wait, the harder it gets for my body to fight. And none of the LCM workers can say that they did right by me. None of them. They can justify and make excuses, but their level of manipulation was harmful. Because now I can't trust them. Just like I can't trust Kaiser. Why? Because you want to fix things internally, but you're not actually doing anything to fix those internal problems. They're still going on. Your providers are still causing harm. Oh, but it's not physical harm. Psychological harm is just as harmful. I think more harmful than any amount of physical harm. Because I have to be able to trust that my doctors are going to listen to me without me having to over-explain everything. But no, it took until I had a little bit of mental clarity, and it took someone being there. And that's why the LCM worker is like, well, this is why you need someone to go to your appointments with you, because you have trouble co-regulating. No, motherfucker. It's not because I have trouble co-regulating. It's because I know that these doctors aren't going to hear me. And they're not. Kaiser doctors do not hear what we are saying. But it took me explaining what happens, because he saw the blood sugar meters. And he's like, well, you have really good blood sugars. And I'm like, but look at the low blood sugars that are under 90. Those are after meals. Not before meals. Those are after meals. That's not normal to eat a fucking full plate of meal and for your blood sugar to drop instead of rising. That's not normal. That's insulin resistance. But because I didn't have the mental clarity, which I specifically told them when the flare-up started last winter, around October, November of last month, I was very, very specific that this was going on. And I couldn't explain it because I didn't have the mental clarity, and I don't have family members, again, that have wanted to learn about why these things happen to my body. So what did doctors do? The PCPs ignored. The GI specialists ignored. You're all responsible. You're all responsible for the trauma that you have caused. You may not want to hear that you're responsible, but you're responsible because you're causing harm with your lack of believing your patients. You're waiting until we end up with severe diabetes or needing machines to regulate our insulin levels. You're waiting to do that because it's more profitable for Kaiser to insert those pumps in our body. It's more profitable for Kaiser for us to end up on some form of diabetes medication. Even though mine is still well controlled through diet, I just need help with nutrition. And yes, I even told her the nutrition that you sent me, very good. I was good for about 2 weeks, and that was just two juices or milk thingies that they sent me that have all the vitamins that I need. And I was good. My body felt okay for a little bit. But then you never sent more. And this is what I mean. This is why I stopped getting the shoes too with durable medical equipment, because you make it so difficult for us to get what we need that people like myself that are already dealing with the consistent physical pain of our body, not just the migraines that I get, but the physical pain that I'm in. I could barely get dressed this morning because my legs kept shaking and giving out on me because of how cold it is. But I'm making it up, right? I'm making up that my joints do this. I make it up that my legs give out, even though people have witnessed it in public. But because I'm not sitting here recording my entire life, and I don't have the evidence that you want, you get to ignore me. You get to pretend like my issues are not your problem. So what do people like myself do? What do people like myself do? Because I could go and beg my family for help, but I don't trust them anymore after what they did. After the harm that they caused, I don't trust them. because they're willing to do harm. Obviously, they'll do it again. It is not just my immediate family. When I asked her for help years ago, she turned me away because her daughter got sick. I completely understand. I'm a walking illness. What do you want me to do? You think that doesn't cause emotional scars? Or the fact that everybody would rather believe that I'm a drug addict than believe that I need help? Because that's essentially why I don't get painkillers from the doctor anymore. Because I don't want to be labeled a drug user and then get put on 1,000 other medications I don't need because you don't believe that these problems exist, because you're biased against hypermobility and POTS. And all those extra depression medications and anxiety medications causing worsening symptoms of POTS. And you claiming that the CBD and the THC do, but since I stopped taking them, the symptoms of POTS are only getting worse. And not the vagus nerve response that I get, because I know the difference. No, just the regular POTS symptoms are getting worse. The dizziness is there all the time. Oh, but it's just vertigo. It's not just vertigo. The vertigo patches made me very ill. It did not assist with what I'm going through. They also caused more migraines. But you just want things that you can treat with medicine that can make Kaiser money. Not with medicine that works, because that's the issue I had with my neurologist. That's the issue I had with my neurologist, that every time a new medicine came, he was switching me on those medications instead of keeping me on medications that worked. Why? Because you formed an opinion about what I was doing and what I was not doing, instead of actually investigating what I was asking you to investigate. Yes, people get desperate. People get desperate. But now, so that you won't label me, despite my desperation, I'm just letting the symptoms get worse. Letting the symptoms get worse so that you can no longer ignore them. But by the time I get care, I might be fully dependent on someone else. And it's not fair that this government allows these corporations to do this to us. It's not fair that the Medi-Cal here in California does this to us either. Because essentially, either they need to get better informed Medi-Cal employees that will fully inform you before things are done, or they need to get rid of the Medi-Cal system, because California is one of the only states that has Medi-Cal. Technically, it's still a form of Medicare. And I understand that it's supposed to be so that it's easier for funding and blah, 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 blah. But essentially, you're hiring corporations. Why do you give contracts to Kaiser and not to companies like Sharp? Is it because they're privatized? Kaiser used to be privatized. Obviously, removing the privatization didn't help Kaiser in any way, shape, or form. On the contrary, it only made their services worse. And less things, less treatments, less things became available to us. So, as long as you allow them to experiment on you, you'll get some of the best care. You'll qualify for things like MFAP so that they can pay for all your hospitalizations and every single ridiculous medication that they prescribe, even if it's harming your body. Even if it's making you yellow because it's affecting your liver, even if it's affecting your muscular skeletal structure, the way the injections in my spine did, because this wobbly legs that I get in the cold began after my last injection, is when both of my legs started giving out. Before, I just had a leg that I dragged a little bit. Yeah, it caused hip pain, but that's because my hip was out of place. I would go to a sobadora to put it back in place because you wouldn't hear me. You wouldn't listen to anything that I was saying. But somehow, no matter how many lawyers I left messages for, this isn't considered malpractice. And the ombudsman still allows Kaiser to handle these problems internally, despite me requesting multiple times, even in text messages, requested multiple times that I get contact with true legal aid, a lawyer that could help me with these things. I requested that from my LCM workers and never received it. But you're allowing them to continue to control this internally and control the narrative too, based on whatever notes they're writing. You're letting them control the narrative, which only delays care further. I don't know why you guys did everything that you did to me, but I can't pretend like it wasn't harmful. And me not being diagnosed with the proper labels, oh, neurodivergence is just a blanket term. Yeah, because I have multiple forms of neurodivergence. I've had them since I was a kid. And yes, I understand that I need full testing to get them diagnosed. You try to get appointments for that. You try to do it. But even if it was just CPTSD, fibromyalgia, and dyslexia, which are, in fact, in my counseling charts and things like that since college, even if it was just that, that's enough for you to know that my nervous system does not function like a normal nervous system. And people like myself, when we're asking for a social worker to assist us because we no longer have family support, that's when a social worker should be assigned to our case. Not therapy, not more therapy, because you can't convince me that this system is working, because it's not working. It's been harming me time and time again. And Kaiser shouldn't be allowed to handle their own psychiatric cases anymore because they don't do it well. They use our psychiatric information to be able to give us medications that are harmful. And I don't understand why they started giving me generic medications, because Dr. Bieberstein let them know over 10 years ago, it would be like 17 years ago now, that my body would get severe side effects from generic medication. But as soon as I stopped allowing Dr. Bieberstein and the kidney specialist to experiment on my body, and as soon as I started requesting medications be removed from my chart so that I wouldn't have to take harmful medications anymore, more and more were added as more symptoms arose from the medications. Now we just have a baseline of the original symptoms that you were improperly treating. You had an opportunity to work with the baseline, and instead of working with it, you gave me providers and practitioners that made it difficult for me to seek care. Because the more you accuse me of wanting to do this for money, the way my rheumatologist said, or the more that your practitioners get upset because I place complaints against them. Oh, if you're so unhappy or unsatisfied with Kaiser, you should just leave. You should just leave Kaiser. Yeah. You're right. Especially when nurses and doctors speak to you like that, we should just leave. There's no reason for us to stay with Kaiser Permanente. That's abuse. And the thing is, none of your bullshit gets recorded unless we file a complaint. And no matter how many complaints you file, the ombudsman keeps sending the complaints for you to fix them. So we're still at the mercy of your bullshit. So no, I don't feel protected by the system. And I trust it as much as I trust my family. Because you don't know what my conditions are. You don't know how my conditions exacerbate each other or mask each other's symptoms. Because you have chosen not to learn about it.